The Great Hall of the Universal Council buzzed with the usual chatter of 47 different alien species. Representatives sat in their assigned sections, some breathing through masks, others floating in water tanks, and a few glowing with their own natural light. The massive crystal dome above them showed the stars of the Vorthax system, peaceful and unchanging. Council Speaker Thixian raised his 4 arms for silence. His blue skin shimmered as he began the monthly session. Today we discuss the mining rights dispute between the Kellan Federation and the Zephyrian Empire, he announced in the universal translator language that all species understood. The Kellan representative, a tall creature with 6 eyes, stood up to speak. But before he could say a word, red lights began flashing throughout the hall. A loud alarm filled the air, drowning out all conversation. High above the planet, Admiral Deho stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus. He watched the alien world grow larger on his screens. The ship around him hummed with power unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Dark matter flowed through the hull like liquid starlight, invisible to normal sensors but very real to those who knew how to see it. "Sir, we're getting dozens of signals from the planet," reported Captain So Min from her position at the communications station. "They're trying to scan us, but their sensors can't lock on." Deho smiled. The human ship existed in a state between normal space and dark matter space. To the aliens below, the Prometheus was like a ghost ship that their instruments couldn't detect, yet it was solid enough to destroy entire fleets if needed. "Any response to our communication attempts?" Deho asked. "Nothing yet, sir. I think they're too confused to answer." Down on the planet, chaos filled the council hall. Defense Minister Cortan of the Vorthok rushed to the speaker's platform. His rocky skin cracked with stress as he shouted over the alarms. "Something massive just appeared above our world. Our sensors show empty space, but visual confirmation shows a ship larger than our biggest dreadnought." Council Speaker Thixian's 4 eyes widened. "How is that possible? Our detection grid covers the entire system. Nothing can approach without warning." "The ship seems to be made of matter our instruments cannot read," Cortan replied. "It's like it exists and doesn't exist at the same time." On the Prometheus, Deho received reports from his crew. "Sir, 12 more ships are jumping in," announced Lieutenant Young Su from the sensor station. "The Sol Rising, the Busan Victory, and the rest of the First Fleet are arriving on schedule." Through the crystal dome, the council members watched, in terror as more human ships appeared from nowhere. Each vessel looked different from anything they had seen before. The hulls seemed to bend light around them, and energy patterns danced across their surfaces like living things. The Zephyrian ambassador, a being of pure energy contained in a crystal suit, spoke in a voice like musical chimes. "In 3,000 years of space travel, we have never encountered technology like this. These ships operate on principles we don't understand." Captain Somin looked up from her station. "Admiral, I'm receiving a transmission from the planet. Someone wants to talk." "Put it through," Deho ordered. The voice of Council Speaker Thixian filled the bridge. "Unknown vessels, you have entered Vorthax space without permission. Identify yourselves immediately." Deho stepped forward. "This is Admiral Deho of the United Earth Space Force. We request an audience with the Universal Council." Silence filled the communication channel for several long seconds. Then Thixian's voice returned, sounding confused. "Did you say Earth? The planet that requested council membership 3 cycles ago?" "The same one you rejected," Deho replied calmly. In the council hall, murmurs spread through the assembled representatives. The humans had been dismissed as a primitive species with barely functional space travel. Their technology seemed centuries behind the established galactic civilizations. Yet here they were, appearing with ships that defied everything the council knew about physics. The Kellan representative with 6 eyes spoke loudly. "This must be some kind of trick. Those primitives couldn't have developed such advanced vessels in just 3 years." Thixian struggled to maintain order. "Admiral Deho, how did you approach our world without detection? Our sensors show nothing where your ships clearly are." "That's something we need to discuss in person," Deho answered. "We have information the Council needs to hear. Information about a threat approaching the galaxy." Defense Minister Cortan stepped forward. "You speak of threats while bringing undetectable warships to our capital world? This could be seen as an act of war." Commander Sung Ho, standing beside Admiral Dae Ho, whispered, "Sir, should I demonstrate our defensive capabilities?" "Not yet," Dae Ho replied quietly. Then he spoke into the communicator again. "Minister Cortan, we come in peace. But we also come with technology you don't understand and warnings you need to hear. Will you allow a delegation to speak before the council?" Thixian looked around the hall at the panicked faces of the representatives. Some demanded immediate military action, while others called for caution. The hegemony counselor, a being that looked like a walking tree, stood up with creaking sounds. "Speaker Thixian, we must hear what these humans have to say." The hegemony counselor said in a voice like rustling leaves, "Ships that can hide from our best sensors could destroy us before we could fight back. Better to talk than to start a war we cannot win." The Zephyrian ambassador agreed. "These humans were primitive when we last encountered them. Something has changed dramatically. We must learn what happened." Thixian raised his arms again. "Very well, Admiral Dae Ho. You may send a delegation to the council hall, but your ships must maintain their current position." "Understood," Dae Ho replied. "We'll transport down within the hour." As the communication ended, Captain Somin looked worried. "Sir, are you sure about this? They outnumber us 47-1. Dae Ho smiled grimly. "Numbers don't matter when you have the right technology, Captain. Besides, they need to hear what we've learned about the Devourers." In the council hall, Thixian called for order as representatives argued loudly. Some species demanded military action against the human ships. Others wanted to flee the system immediately. A few wise voices called for patience and careful negotiation. "How did those humans advance so quickly?" asked the Kellen representative. 3 years ago, they barely had faster-than-light travel. Now they appear with ships our sensors cannot detect." The Vorthak defense minister was studying readings from the orbital defense platforms. "Our weapons systems can't get target locks on their vessels. It's as if they exist in a different layer of reality. High above the planet, more human ships continued to arrive. Each one appeared from what looked like empty space, materializing like ghosts becoming solid. The dark matter technology that powered them remained completely unknown to the alien species below." Admiral Dae Ho prepared for the most important diplomatic mission in human history. The Council had rejected Earth's membership once before. Now humanity would return not as supplicants, but as the bearers of impossible technology and terrible warnings. The Prometheus held position above the crystal dome, its dark matter engines, creating subtle distortions in space that the alien sensors couldn't interpret. Soon, the representatives below would learn that their galaxy faced a threat beyond their imagination, and only the primitive humans possessed the tools to fight it. The first contact that should have happened 3 years ago was finally beginning, but now the stakes were higher than anyone could have imagined. The Universal Council was about to discover that sometimes the species you dismiss as weak become the ones who save you from extinction. Dr. Young-Soo remembered the day everything changed. 20 years ago, he had been studying cosmic background radiation from his laboratory on Earth's moon. Most scientists ignored dark matter because they couldn't see it or touch it. But Young-Soo noticed something strange in the data patterns. Dark matter isn't just invisible, he had told his colleagues back then. It exists in a parallel layer with normal matter, like 2 sheets of paper pressed together, but each sheet follows different rules. His breakthrough came when he realized that dark matter could be manipulated if you approached it correctly. It wasn't about forcing it to behave like normal matter. Instead, you had to learn its language and speak to it on its own terms. Now, as Colonel Haya-Jin stepped off the transport shuttle onto the council station, she carried the results of Young-Soo's decades of research. The alien representatives gathered around the landing platform stared at her in confusion and fear. Council Speaker Thixian approached carefully. His blue skin had turned a darker shade, which Haya-Jin's briefing materials told her indicated stress in his species. "Colonel Haya-Jin, welcome to the Universal Council Station. We have many questions about your ships." "I'm sure you do," Haya-Jin replied calmly. "But first, let me demonstrate something that might help you understand." She touched a device on her wrist, and suddenly a section of the platform became transparent. The aliens could see through it to the space below, but when He-Jin stepped onto that section, she didn't fall through. Her boots stood on solid surface that their eyes told them wasn't there. The Zephyrian ambassador's crystal suit flickered with rapid light patterns, indicating extreme surprise. How are you standing on nothing? I'm not standing on nothing, Hyjin explained. I'm standing on dark matter that has been structured into a solid platform. Your eyes can't see it because dark matter doesn't interact with light the same way normal matter does. Defense Minister Cortan stepped closer, his rocky skin crackling with nervous energy. This is impossible according to established physics. Dark matter cannot be manipulated or structured. That's what we thought too, Hyejin said. Until we learn to think differently about the universe. High above them, Commander Sung-ho prepared to demonstrate the Prometheus's capabilities. Admiral Daeho had given him permission to show the council representatives something that would change their understanding of warfare forever. Begin phase transition, Sung-ho ordered his crew. The massive human warship began to shimmer like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Slowly, sections of the hull became transparent to the watching aliens below. But unlike normal transparency, this was something far more dramatic. Parts of the ship were shifting into dark matter space while maintaining structural integrity. On the station, alarms began ringing as the alien sensors completely lost track of the Prometheus. To their instruments, half the ship had simply vanished from existence. But their eyes could still see a ghostly outline where the vessel floated. Report from the orbital defense grid, announced a Vorthak technician. The human ship is only partially visible to our sensors. Weapons cannot achieve target lock on the sections that have disappeared. Thixian's 4 arms trembled. How is this possible? Matter cannot simply stop existing. Colonel Hyejin smiled. It hasn't stopped existing. It's moved into dark matter, space. From there, it can observe and interact with our normal space, but attacks from normal space cannot touch it. The demonstration continued as Commander Sung-ho ordered a full-phase shift. The entire Prometheus became invisible to alien sensors while remaining visible to the naked eye. It was like watching a ship made of ghosts, there but not there at the same time. Dr. Young-Soo's voice came through Hyejin's communicator from the ship above. Colonel, I'm reading massive confusion in their biosigns. Maybe we should explain the science more slowly. Good idea, Hyejin replied. She turned to the gathered aliens. Your species have been studying the universe for thousands of years. But you've only been looking at the matter you can see and touch. That's like trying to understand a book by only reading every other page. The hegemony counselor, the tree-like being, swayed thoughtfully. You speak of dark matter as if it were a parallel universe. In many ways it is, Hyejin confirmed. Dark matter makes up most of the universe's mass, but it exists in a state that doesn't interact with electromagnetic forces the way normal matter does. We learned to bridge that gap. A new voice joined the conversation. The Kellen representative with 6 eyes had been quietly observing. Even if this is true, how did your species master such technology so quickly? 3 years ago, you were barely capable of interstellar travel. Hyejin's expression grew serious. We had help. And that help came with a terrible warning. She activated a holographic projector that showed images of a derelict spacecraft floating in the ice rings of Jupiter's moon Europa. The alien vessel looked nothing like the ships of any known species. Its hull seemed to absorb light, creating a darkness deeper than space itself. Our deep space monitoring station detected this crash site 7 years ago, Hyejin explained. The ship was damaged beyond repair, but its technology was intact. When our scientists studied it, they discovered something horrifying. The hologram shifted to show the interior of the alien vessel. Strange symbols covered every surface, and at the center sat a massive dark matter engine unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. This ship belonged to a species called the Devourers, Hyejin continued. The data we recovered from its computers told us about an invasion fleet approaching the galaxy. Ships that move through dark matter space, invisible to conventional sensors. Thixian stepped closer to the hologram. You're saying there's an invasion coming? Why should we believe this? Because 3 months ago, our deep space sensors detected the first scout ships entering the outer rim, Hyejin replied. They're already here, studying our defenses and preparing for the main fleet's arrival. Commander Sung-ho's voice came through the communicator. Colonel, I'm detecting increased activity from the Vorthak defense fleet. Should I go to full defensive posture? Negative, Hyejin replied. Continue the demonstration, but no aggressive actions. Above them, the Prometheus, completed its phase transition demonstration by returning to normal space visibility. But the aliens had seen enough to understand that their entire concept of space warfare had become obsolete. The Zephyrian ambassador's light patterns shifted to what Hyejin recognized as deep concern. If what you say is true, then our conventional weapons and defenses are useless against these devourers. Exactly, Hyejin confirmed, but dark matter technology can level the playing field. Ships that can phase in and out of dark matter space, weapons that can strike targets in both dimensions simultaneously, shields that exist in parallel realities. Defense Minister Corton was studying data on a portable device. Our scientists are analyzing the readings from your ship's demonstration. They confirm that conventional physics cannot explain what we've observed. Dr. Young-Soo transported down to join the discussion, carrying a briefcase full of technical specifications. Minister Corton, I'd be happy to explain the theoretical framework. But first, you need to understand that everything your species know about space combat is about to change. The gathered aliens looked at each other with expressions of fear, confusion, and dawning realization. The humans they had dismissed as primitives now possessed technology that made the most advanced galactic civilizations look like children playing with toys. How long do we have? Asked the hegemony counselor. Hyejin checked her chronometer. According to our projections, the main Devourer fleet will reach the galaxy's core systems within 6 months. The outer worlds will start falling in just weeks. Thixian raised his 4 arms for attention. The council must convene emergency session immediately. Representatives, return to your ships and contact your governments. We face a threat unlike anything in recorded history. As the aliens hurried away to make urgent communications, Hyejin stood alone on the platform with Dr. Young-Soo. The scientist looked tired but determined. Do you think they'll accept our help? Young-Soo asked. They don't have a choice, Hyejin replied, watching the alien ships prepare to carry desperate messages to their home worlds. Either we work together, or we all die together. Ambassador Mi Young stepped into the council chamber 3 days later. The emergency session had been called, and representatives from all 47 species sat in tense silence. The humans had been granted speaking privileges, something that would have been impossible before their ships appeared above the Vorthak homeworld. Honored council members, Mi Young began, her voice clear and steady. For the past 10 years, humanity has been fighting a secret war. We didn't tell you because you had already decided we weren't worthy of membership in your council. Murmurs rippled through the assembled aliens. Council Speaker Thixian raised his arms for silence. Ambassador Mi Young, explain what you mean by a secret war. Mi Young activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. It showed the Milky Way galaxy from an external perspective, with small red dots moving between the spiral arms. In 2157, our deep space monitoring stations detected anomalous gravitational signatures in the void between galaxies. Something massive was moving through dark matter space, heading toward our galaxy. The red dots on the display multiplied and grew larger as they approached the galaxy's outer edge. We spent 3 years trying to understand what we were seeing. The objects were too large to be natural formations, but too organized to be random debris. Fleet Admiral Tae Sung joined Mi Young at the holographic display. His weathered face showed the strain of years spent preparing for an impossible war. The breakthrough came when we discovered the derelict ship near Europa. The Devourer vessel had been damaged in some kind of battle and crashed into our solar system decades ago. The hologram shifted to show the dark alien ship that Colonel Hyejin had displayed earlier. But now additional details were visible, including massive weapon systems and storage bays filled with processed matter. The ship's data cores contained horrifying information, Tae Sung continued. The Devourers are an ancient species that consumes entire galaxies. They convert normal matter into dark matter fuel, leaving nothing behind but empty space. A new voice interrupted from the council floor. The Kellen representative stood up, his 6 eyes focused on the humans. You claim to have been fighting these Devourers for 10 years, yet we have detected no battles, no distress signals, no evidence of warfare. Lieutenant Boram stepped forward carrying a data pad. That's because dark matter warfare is invisible to conventional sensors. May I demonstrate? At Thixian's nod, Boram activated her device. The holographic display changed to show real-time sensor data from the outer rim of the galaxy. To most observers, it looked like empty space, with normal stellar background radiation. "This is what your sensors see in the Kepler sector," Boram explained. "Now let me show you what dark matter sensors detect." The display flickered and suddenly showed dozens of large objects moving through space. Sleek, predatory-looking ships with hulls that seemed to absorb light itself. They moved in perfect formation, scanning system after system with instruments the Council had never imagined. "Devourer scout ships," Boram announced. "They've been operating in your territory for 8 months, mapping every inhabited world and defense installation." The Council chamber erupted in shocked voices. Representatives demanded to know why they hadn't been warned, while others questioned how the humans could detect threats that remained invisible to everyone else. Defense. Minister Cortan's rocky skin cracked audibly as stress overwhelmed his emotional control. "How many of these scout ships are in our space?" "Current count is 47 active vessels," Admiral Tae-sung replied grimly. "They're studying each of your species individually, learning about your technology, your defenses, and your weaknesses. The me?" Zephyrian Ambassador's crystal suit blazed with rapid light patterns. "If you've known about this threat for years, why did you wait until now to contact us?" Ambassador Mi Young's expression hardened. "Because 3 years ago, the Universal Council rejected Earth's membership application. You called us primitively aggressive and technologically insignificant. You made it clear that humanity wasn't welcome in galactic civilization." She gestured to the holographic display showing Devourer ships. "So we decided to handle the problem ourselves. We reverse-engineered the derelict ship's technology, built our own dark matter vessels, and began intercepting scout ships before they could report back to the main fleet." Lieutenant Boram brought up new data showing the locations of 17 destroyed Devourer scouts. "Each engagement taught us more about their capabilities and tactics. We've managed to slow their intelligence gathering, but we can't stop the main invasion alone." The Hegemony Counselor swayed as if blown by wind. "How large is this main invasion fleet?" Admiral Tae-sung's jaw tightened. "Based on data from the derelict ship, we estimate between 3,000 and 5,000 Devourer vessels. Each one is capable of converting an entire planet into dark matter fuel within days." Silence fell over the Council chamber like a heavy blanket. The numbers were beyond anything the assembled species had ever faced. Even united, their combined fleets numbered less than 800 major warships. "There's something else," Mi Young added quietly. "The Devourers have done this before. The data we recovered shows the remains of 63 consumed galaxies. Entire civilizations reduced to nothing but dark matter fuel." She activated a new hologram showing the aftermath of Devourer attacks. Empty star systems with no planets, no space stations, no signs that life had ever existed. Even the stars themselves had been altered, their nuclear fuel partially converted to dark matter. "Each galaxy they consume makes them stronger," Tae-sung explained. "They use the converted matter to build more ships, create more weapons, and fuel their expansion to the next target." The Kellen representative sat down heavily, his 6 eyes unfocused with shock. "How do we fight something like this?" "With dark matter technology," Boram replied. "Ships that can exist in both normal space and dark matter space simultaneously. Weapons that can strike targets in parallel dimensions. Shields that can phase between realities to avoid damage." Council Speaker Thixian struggled to maintain order as representatives began talking loudly to each other. Some species wanted to flee immediately to the far edges of the galaxy. Others demanded military alliances with species they had been fighting for decades. "The main fleet will arrive within 6 months," Admiral Tae-sung announced over the noise. "The outer rim worlds will start falling within weeks when the advanced scouts finish their reconnaissance and begin preparing landing sites." Ambassador Mi Young waited for relative quiet before speaking again. "Humanity is prepared to share our dark matter technology with the Council species. But the learning curve is steep, and time is running out." "What do you want in return?" asked the Vorthak Defense Minister suspiciously. "Full membership in the Universal Council," Mi Young replied without hesitation. "Command authority over unified galactic defenses, and acceptance that Earth will coordinate the resistance against the Devourers." The demand sent another wave of shocked murmurs through the chamber. Some representatives objected to giving command authority to a species they still considered primitive. Others argued that survival was more important than pride. "You're asking us to trust our entire civilization to a species we barely know," said the Zephyrian ambassador. "No," Mi-young corrected. "We're asking you to trust the species that has been protecting you for the past decade without asking for anything in return." Lieutenant Boram activated her display one final time. It showed a real-time view of human ships patrolling the galaxy's outer rim, invisible guardians standing watch against an enemy no one else could see. "While you've been conducting business as usual, human crews have been dying to keep Devourer scouts from reaching your core worlds," she said quietly. "We've lost 43 ships and over 2,000 personnel protecting species that rejected us." The weight of that revelation settled over the council chamber like a physical force. The humans hadn't just discovered a threat. They had been actively fighting it while the rest of the galaxy remained oblivious. Admiral Tae-sung stepped forward. "The choice is simple. Work with us and have a chance at survival, or maintain your pride and watch the galaxy burn. But decide quickly. The Devourers are coming, and they don't care about your politics." As the Admiral's words echoed through the chamber, emergency alarms began ringing throughout the station. A Vorthak technician rushed to Defense Minister Cortan with urgent news. "Sir, we're receiving distress signals from the outer spiral colonies. Multiple worlds report strange phenomena. Stars dimming, gravitational anomalies, and complete loss of contact with deep space monitoring stations." Ambassador Mi-young looked grimly at the assembled council. "The advance phase has begun. The Devourers are no longer hiding." Counselor Prime Valdris of the Hegemony stood in his private chambers aboard the council station, staring out at the human ships that surrounded them. The massive vessels hung in space like dark promises of salvation or destruction, depending on your perspective. He had ruled the Hegemony for 2 centuries, and never had he faced a decision this difficult. A soft chime indicated an incoming communication. The holographic image of Defense Chancellor Korvac appeared, his crystalline features sharp with concern. "Counselor Prime, the emergency session has been delayed again. The representatives are split into 3 factions, and none can agree on a course of action." "Explain the divisions," Valdris requested, though he suspected he already knew. The first faction, led by the Zephyrians and Kellans, wants immediate full alliance with the humans. They're willing to grant Earth everything they've requested: membership, command authority, even tribute payments for protection. Valdris nodded. Fear made people desperate, and desperate people made poor decisions. The second faction? The Vorthak and their allies oppose any human involvement. They claim this is all an elaborate deception to trick the Council into surrendering sovereignty to a primitive species. They want to maintain traditional power structures and handle the threat through conventional means. And the third faction? Korvac's image flickered slightly as the transmission adjusted. The moderates, led by the Rillan Republic, want limited cooperation. They'll accept human assistance but refuse to grant command authority or full membership. They believe we can take the technology and handle the war ourselves. Valdris turned away from the window. Each faction's position made sense from their own perspective, but none addressed the reality of their situation. Have any of them actually reviewed the tactical data the humans provided? Some have. The ones who studied it are now firmly in the first faction. The others refuse to look at it, claiming human data cannot be trusted. 3 days had passed since Ambassador Mi-young's revelation about the Devourers, and the Council had accomplished nothing but endless debate. Meanwhile, reports continued arriving from the Outer Rim. 12 more colonies had gone silent, and strange energy readings were detected throughout the spiral arms. Captain Jin Woo commanded the human destroyer Soul Victory as it patrolled the Kepler sector. His ship was one of 20 human vessels conducting search and destroy missions against Devourer scouts. The work was dangerous and exhausting, but necessary to buy time for the Council's political games. Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, reported sensor operator Han Sol. Dark matter signature matches Devourer scout pattern. Jinwoo studied the tactical display. The enemy ship was moving through normal space, apparently confident that no one could detect it. The Devourers had no idea that humans possessed dark matter sensors. All stations, prepare for engagement, Jinwoo ordered. Weapons, charge dark, matter disruptors. Navigation, Plot intercept course through dark matter space. The Soul Victory phased partially into dark matter space, becoming invisible to conventional sensors. The ship accelerated toward the unsuspecting Devourer scout, its exotic weapons systems powering up for combat. Target acquired, announced Weapons Officer So Young. Devourer vessel appears to be scanning the Rillan colony world. No indication. They've detected us. Fire when ready, Jinwoo commanded. Dark matter torpedoes streaked through parallel space, emerging into normal reality just as they struck the enemy ship. The Devourer vessel's hull cracked and split as exotic energy tore through its structure. Within seconds, the scout ship was reduced to expanding debris. Target destroyed, So Young reported. No distress signals detected. Jinwoo allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. That was the 18th Devourer scout his crew had destroyed in the past month. But for every ship they eliminated, 3 more seemed to take its place. Back on the Council station, Engineer Nari worked frantically in the technical laboratories. The Council had finally agreed to allow human scientists to examine alien ship designs, but the results were discouraging. Dr. Youngsu, we have a problem, Nari reported to her supervisor via communicator. The alien hull materials are completely incompatible with dark matter technology. We can't just retrofit their existing ships. Youngsu's voice crackled through the intercom. What do you mean incompatible? Dark matter infusion requires quantum-level restructuring of the hull matrix. These alien ships are built using molecular bonding techniques that create interference with dark matter fields. It's like trying to mix oil and water. Nari gestured to the Vorthak cruiser she had been studying. The massive vessel was impressive by conventional standards, but its entire construction would need to be rebuilt from the quantum level up to accommodate dark matter systems. How long would it take to convert a ship this size? Youngsu asked. At least 8 months, assuming we could manufacture enough dark matter infusion equipment. We'd basically have to disassemble the entire vessel and rebuild it using human construction techniques. The timeline was impossible. The Devourer main fleet would arrive long before they could convert even a fraction of the Council's military forces. In the Council chamber, the debates grew more heated each day. Councilor Prime Valdris attempted to moderate between the factions, but positions were hardening rather than finding common ground. The humans are manipulating us, declared the Vorthak defense minister, his rocky skin crackling with agitation. They created this crisis to force us into submission. The Zephyrian ambassador's crystal suit blazed with angry light patterns. You've seen the sensor readings, the destroyed colonies. How can you deny the evidence? Evidence that only human sensors can detect, the Vorthak minister replied. How convenient that their mysterious technology is the only way to see this supposed threat. Ambassador Mi Young sat quietly in the observer section, watching the aliens tear their alliance apart with fear and pride. Behind her, Fleet Admiral Tae Sung whispered tactical updates about the deteriorating situation in the Outer Rim. 17. More colonies have gone dark, he reported quietly. The advanced scouts are moving faster than our projections indicated. They're not just gathering intelligence anymore, they're preparing landing sites for the main fleet. Mi Young nodded grimly. The humans could continue intercepting scout ships, but they couldn't stop the systematic preparation for invasion. Time was running out, and the Council seemed paralyzed by indecision. A new voice joined the debate. Councillor Thixian activated his speaking privileges and addressed the chamber. I have received classified intelligence from our deep space monitoring network. Something is happening in the dark space between galaxies. He activated a holographic display showing long-range sensor data. Massive gravitational distortions were detected moving toward the galaxy at incredible speed. The readings were unlike anything in their databases. These distortions are consistent with the human warnings about a main invasion fleet, Thixian continued. Whatever is coming, it's larger than anything we've ever encountered. The chamber fell silent as representatives studied the sensor data. Even the most skeptical council members couldn't deny the evidence of their own instruments. How long do we have? Asked the Kellen representative quietly. Thixian consulted his datapad. Based on current velocity and trajectory, approximately 97 days until the leading edge of the distortions reaches our outer systems. 97 days. Less than 3 months to prepare for the greatest threat in galactic history. The hegemony councillor swayed as if struck by wind. We need those human ships. We need their technology. Pride won't protect us from extinction. But the Vorthak minister remained defiant. We don't know that these distortions are hostile. They could be natural phenomena that the humans are misinterpreting to serve their own agenda. Ambassador Mi-young finally stood up. Counselor Valdris, may I address the chamber? You may speak, Ambassador. Mi-young walked to the center of the chamber, her calm presence contrasting with the chaos around her. Honored representatives, while you debate whether the threat is real, human crews are dying to protect your worlds. While you question our motives, Devourer scouts are preparing landing sites on your outer colonies, she activated her communicator. Admiral Tae-sung, patch through the tactical display from the Kepler engagement. The hologram showed Captain Jin-woo's battle with the Devourer scout in real time. The alien vessel was clearly visible on sensors, its predatory design unmistakably hostile. The human ship phased through dark matter space to attack, demonstrating technology the Council had never imagined. This engagement occurred 6 hours ago, Mi-young announced. The Devourer scout was preparing to land advance forces on the Rilan colony world. Captain Jin-woo's crew prevented an invasion that would have killed 3 million civilians. The Rilan representative stood up abruptly. You're saying human forces saved one of our colonies? We're saying human forces have been saving your colonies for months, Mi-young replied. The question is whether you'll help us save the rest of them. Counselor Prime Valdris watched the faces of the representatives as the reality of their situation finally sank in. Fear, pride, and political calculation warred in their expressions. The motion before the Council is clear, Valdris announced. Do we grant Earth full membership and command authority over unified Galax? President Dongmin of Earth stood on the bridge of the massive dark matter carrier Sol Rising as it emerged from the void between stars. The ship was 3 times larger than any vessel the Council had ever seen, its hull rippling with dark energy patterns that hurt to look at directly. Behind it came the entire human battle fleet, 200 ships of impossible design and devastating capability. Mr. President, we're receiving priority communications from 37 different species, reported Communications Officer Hyo-jin. They all want to speak with you immediately. Dongmin smiled grimly. The Council's vote had finally taken place after a week of heated debate. 28 species voted for full alliance with humanity, 15 voted against, and 4 abstained. It wasn't unanimous, but it was enough to begin the real work of preparing for war. Put through the hegemony counselor first, Dongmin ordered. He was instrumental in convincing the moderate factions. The holographic image of Counselor Prime Valdris appeared on the bridge. The ancient leader looked exhausted, but determined. President Dongmin, welcome to Council Space. We are ready to implement the Unity Protocol as approved by the Council vote. The Unity Protocol was humanity's comprehensive plan for galactic defense. It called for immediate integration of all military forces under human command, rapid deployment of dark matter technology to allied fleets, and establishment of Earth as the coordination center for the coming war. Counselor Valdris, I appreciate the Council's trust, Dongmin replied, but I need to be clear about what's required. Total unity means some species will have to set aside territorial disputes and ancient grudges. Can your people do that? The Devourer threat has a way of putting old conflicts in perspective, Valdris answered. Most of our species understand that survival requires cooperation. Admiral Su-jin entered the bridge carrying datapads full of tactical information. She had been tasked with training alien crews in dark matter warfare, a job that seemed impossible given the time constraints they faced. Mr. President, I have the initial assessment from the joint training exercises, she reported. We've identified 12 species with compatible mindsets for dark matter technology. The others are struggling with concepts that go against everything they know about physics. The fundamental problem was that dark matter technology required a completely different way of thinking about space, time, and reality itself. Human minds had adapted to these concepts through years of gradual learning, but alien species had to master them in weeks. Show me the compatibility ratings, Dongmin requested. Su-jin activated a holographic display showing the results of training exercises with volunteer crews from different species. The Zephyrians, with their energy-based consciousness, showed remarkable aptitude for dark matter manipulation. The hegemony's plant-like biology allowed them to perceive multiple dimensional layers simultaneously. But the Vorthak, despite their advanced technology, struggled with dark matter concepts. Their rigid thinking patterns made it difficult to accept that matter could exist in states their sensors couldn't detect. The Kellans are making good progress, Sujin continued. Their six-eyed vision naturally perceives dimensional depth that helps with dark matter navigation. The Rilans are having trouble, but their mathematical skills are helping them understand the theoretical framework. Scientists Kyung Ho worked in the massive conversion facility that had been constructed in the hegemony system. His breakthrough in rapid ship conversion had come from studying how different alien technologies could be merged with human dark matter systems. Dr. Young-soo, I think I've solved the hull incompatibility problem, Kyung Ho announced over the communications link. Instead of trying to convert existing ships, we can build hybrid vessels that combine the best of both technologies. The holographic plans he transmitted showed sleek new ship designs that merged human dark matter engines with alien weapon systems and life support technology. The resulting vessels would be more powerful than anything either species could build, alone. How long to construct a full battle fleet? Asked Dr. Young-soo. 6 weeks for the first squadron, assuming we can get enough volunteer crews trained in time. The automated construction systems can work around the clock once we have the designs finalized. It was still a race against time, but for the first time since the crisis began, humanity had a realistic chance of fielding enough dark matter-capable ships to make a difference in the coming war. The Devourer main fleet had crossed the galactic threshold 3 days earlier. Long-range sensors showed an armada of staggering proportions. 4,000 ships of varying sizes, all constructed from matter so dark it seemed to absorb light itself. The lead elements would reach the outer colonies within 60 days. In the Joint Command Center on Earth, representatives from 28 species worked alongside human officers to coordinate the largest military mobilization in galactic history. The scale was unprecedented. Every available ship, every trained crew, every weapon system that could be adapted for dark matter warfare. Status report from the Outer Rim Defense Grid, announced Coordination Officer Min Ji. Automated sensor. Platforms are tracking the Devourer advance fleet. They're moving in perfect formation, scanning every system as they approach. Fleet Admiral Tae Sung studied the tactical displays showing enemy movements. The Devourers weren't rushing toward their targets. They moved with methodical precision, studying each system thoroughly before advancing to the next. It was the behavior of predators who had never faced serious resistance. They're taking their time because they don't expect opposition, Tae Sung observed. Every previous galaxy fell quickly once the main fleet arrived. They have no experience with sustained resistance. That gave the Allied forces one crucial advantage: surprise. The Devourers had no idea that their advanced scouts had been detected and destroyed. They assumed their usual tactics would work perfectly. President Dong Min received reports from across the galaxy as the Unity Protocol took effect. Ancient enemies were setting aside their differences to face the common threat. Trade routes were being converted to supply lines. Civilian populations were being evacuated from vulnerable worlds. Mr. President, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Vorthak homeworld, reported Officer Hyojin. Defense Minister Cortan requests immediate assistance with planetary defense preparations. It was a significant development. The Vorthak had been among the most resistant to human involvement, but the reality of the approaching invasion had changed their perspective. Put him through, Dongmin ordered. Defense Minister Cortan's rocky features appeared on the holographic display, his usually stern expression showing cracks of worry. President Dongmin, my government has reconsidered our position regarding dark matter technology. We formally request inclusion in the Unity Protocol. Minister Cortan, we welcome the Vorthak Republic into the Alliance, Dongmin replied diplomatically. What assistance do you need? Our scientists have reviewed the Devourer tactical data. Our planetary shields will not withstand their conversion weapons. We need dark matter defense systems immediately. The admission was difficult for the proud Vorthak leader, but necessity had overcome pride. Their advanced conventional technology was useless against enemies who attacked from parallel dimensions. Admiral Sujin stepped forward. Minister Cortan, we can have installation teams on your homeworld within 48 hours, but your people will need to work alongside human technicians without interference. Agreed, Cortan replied without hesitation. Pride is a luxury we can no longer afford. Similar requests poured in from across the galaxy as the reality of the Devourer threat overcame political considerations. Species that had refused to consider human assistance just weeks earlier now begged for dark matter protection systems. The transformation was remarkable but came at a cost. Human crews were stretched thin across hundreds of worlds, installing defense systems, training alien operators, and preparing for battles unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. In the deep space construction yards, the first hybrid warships began taking shape. The sleek vessels combined human dark matter technology with the best innovations from dozens of species. Zephyrian energy weapons that could strike in multiple dimensions. Hegemony biological computers that could process dark matter sensor data in real time. Kellen navigation systems that could plot courses through parallel space. Scientist Kyung Ho watched with satisfaction as the first hybrid destroyer completed its test flights. The ship moved like liquid starlight, phasing between dimensions with grace that surpassed even pure human vessels. Performance specs exceed all projections, he reported to the command center. The hybrid design is actually superior to single-species construction. The alien technologies complement our dark matter systems perfectly. President Dongmin studied the production schedules and training reports. In 6 weeks, the Alliance would field 150 dark matter-capable warships, crewed by the best personnel from 28 species. It wasn't enough to match the Devourer fleet in numbers, but it might be enough to give them a fighting chance. Mr. President, incoming priority alert from the Deep Space Monitoring Network, announced Officer Minji urgently. The Devourer advance fleet has accelerated. New arrival time estimate, 37 days. Fleet Commander Eun Su stood in the command center of the massive space station Unified Hope, watching as the greatest armada in galactic history prepared for battle. Around her, officers from 28 different species worked together with an efficiency that would have been impossible just months earlier. The threat of extinction had accomplished what centuries of diplomacy could not: true unity among the stars. Status report from all sectors, she ordered. Outer Rim Defense Grid reports ready, announced Captain So-min from the communications station. 150 dark matter-capable ships in position, mixed crews trained and standing by. The I defensive line stretched across 3 star systems, positioned to intercept the Devourer fleet before it could reach the galaxy's populated core worlds. Every ship in the line was a hybrid vessel combining human dark matter technology with alien innovations, crewed by the bravest volunteers from dozens of species. Long-range sensors detect the enemy fleet at bearing 097 Mark IV, reported sensor operator Han Sol. 4,000 ships maintaining formation. Estimated arrival at our defensive line, 6 hours, 37 minutes. Commander, Yunsu studied the tactical display showing both fleets. The numbers were overwhelming. 4,000 Devourer ships against 150 Alliance vessels. In conventional warfare, such odds would guarantee annihilation. But dark matter combat followed different rules. Signal all ships, she ordered. Commence Operation Shadow Strike. Phase all vessels into dark matter space and await my command. Across the defensive line, hybrid warships began the transition into dark matter space. To observers in normal space, the Alliance fleet simply vanished. But in the parallel dimension of dark matter, they remained fully operational and completely invisible to Devourer sensors. The Devourer fleet approached with arrogant confidence. Their massive ships moved in perfect formation, each vessel larger than anything the galaxy had ever produced. Dark hulls absorbed light like hungry voids, and exotic weapon systems charged with energies that bent space around them. On the bridge of the hybrid destroyer New Sol, Commander Jae-hun prepared his crew for humanity's first purely dark matter engagement. His ship existed entirely in dark matter space, making it immune to conventional attacks while retaining full combat capability. Target the lead Devourer command ship, he ordered. All weapons ready? Dark matter torpedoes loaded and armed, replied Weapons Officer So Young. Quantum disruptors at full charge. The battle began without warning. Alliance ships emerged from dark matter space just long enough to fire their weapons before disappearing again. Dark matter torpedoes struck Devourer vessels from impossible angles, passing through their shields as if they didn't exist. The Devourer fleet reacted with confusion and rage. Their sensors couldn't detect the attacking ships, making it impossible to return fire effectively. Massive vessels designed to consume planets found themselves helpless against enemies they couldn't see. Dr. Hyo-jin watched the battle from her laboratory aboard the research vessel Discovery. Years of studying the derelict Devourer ship had led to this moment, the first test of her dark matter disruptor field technology. Initiating disruptor field in Sector 7, she announced to the command center. If this works, it will force enemy ships out of their dark matter shells and into normal space. The experimental weapon activated, sending waves of exotic energy through both normal space and dark matter dimensions. Where the field touched Devourer vessels, their dark hulls began to flicker and fade. Suddenly, several enemy ships became fully visible to conventional sensors. "It's working," reported Captain Somin excitedly. "Devourer ships in Sector 7 are being forced into normal space. Their dark matter protection is failing." Alliance ships that had been limited to hit-and-run attacks suddenly found vulnerable targets. Conventional weapons could now damage the exposed Devourer vessels, and the tide of battle began to shift. But the enemy adapted quickly. The Devourer command ships began deploying their own exotic weapons, reality-warping devices that created tears in space-time itself. Where these weapons struck, Alliance ships were torn apart at the quantum level. "We're losing ships in Sector 3, reported Han Sol urgently. "The Hegemony Cruiser World Tree and the Zephyrian Destroyer Crystal Song have been destroyed. Their dark matter cores are destabilizing." The destruction of dark matter cores created chain reactions that threatened nearby vessels. Commander Yun-Su realized that conventional battle tactics wouldn't work against an enemy with such devastating weapons. "All ships, implement Protocol Omega," she ordered. "Begin deep phase operations." The Alliance fleet disappeared completely into dark matter space, existing only in the parallel dimension where the laws of physics operated differently. From there, they could observe the Devourer fleet while being completely immune to attack. Commander Jae-hun led the first pure dark matter fighter squadron into the heart of the enemy formation. His pilots existed as beings of exotic energy, their consciousness transferred into dark matter constructs that could move through space like living thoughts. "This is incredible," reported fighter pilot Yu-jin over the quantum communication link. "I can see the internal structure of their ships. Their crews exist partially in dark matter space, too. That's how they control their vessels." The discovery changed everything. The Devourers weren't just using dark matter technology. They had evolved to exist partially in dark matter space themselves. Their consciousness spanned both dimensions, making them incredibly difficult to fight with conventional methods. "New. Orders from Fleet Command," announced Jae-hun. "We're going to target their consciousness directly. Prepare quantum disruption weapons." The fighters dove through the hulls of Devourer ships, attacking the exotic neural networks that connected their crews to their vessels. It was a form of warfare that had never been attempted, combat between consciousness existing in parallel dimensions. Dr. Hyo-jin's disruptor field expanded across the battlefield, forcing more Devourer ships into normal space where they became vulnerable. But the enemy mothership, a vessel larger than Earth's moon, began charging a weapon that threatened to tear apart local space-time entirely. "Fleet Commander, massive energy buildup detected in the Devourer mothership," reported Han Sol. "If that weapon fires, it will create a quantum cascade that destroys everything within 3 light years." Commander Eun-su made the hardest decision of her career. "All ships converge on the mothership. We end this now or we all die trying." The Alliance fleet emerged from dark matter space in a coordinated assault on the enemy command vessel. Dark matter torpedoes, quantum disruptors, and exotic energy weapons struck the massive ship from every direction. The Devourer motherships' shields failed under the concentrated assault. Commander Jae-hun piloted his dark matter fighter directly into the mothership's core, where the enemy consciousness maintained control of their fleet. In a battle fought between minds existing in parallel dimensions, he faced the ancient intelligence that had consumed 63 galaxies. The fight was brief but decisive. Human creativity and adaptability proved superior to ancient intellect, locked in rigid patterns. The Devourer consciousness shattered, and with it, the coordination of their entire fleet. Across the battlefield, Devourer ships began losing power as their controlling intelligence failed. Without central coordination, they became just ships, dangerous but no longer an unstoppable force. Enemy fleet is breaking apart, reported Captain So-Min with wonder in her voice. They're retreating toward the galactic edge. The first major battle of the Dark Matter War was over. The Alliance had lost 37 ships and thousands of brave souls, but they had achieved the impossible. They had stopped an invasion force that had never known defeat. Fleet Commander Yun Su stood before the rebuilt Universal Council 3 months later. The galaxy had changed forever. Species that had been enemies for centuries now worked together. Technology that seemed impossible had become commonplace. And humanity had taken its place not as conquerors, but as the guardians who saved civilization itself. The Devourer threat is not ended, she reported to the assembled representatives. Our victory bought us time, but they will return with new strategies and adapted technology. We must remain vigilant. Admiral Daeho, standing beside her, added, "The dark matter warships that once shocked this council are now the backbone of galactic defense. Every species contributed to this victory, and every species must contribute to the peace that follows. The Universal Council, humbled by near extinction and saved by the species they had once rejected, voted unanimously to make Earth the permanent center of galactic defense. The dark matter technology that had seemed like magic was now shared freely among all allied species." President Dongmin watched from Earth as the galaxy began to rebuild. The scars of war would take generations to heal, but something beautiful had emerged from the darkness. A truly unified galactic civilization that could face any threat together. The dark matter warships of humanity continued their patrol of the galactic rim, no longer symbols of shock and fear, but beacons of hope in the infinite darkness between the stars. The age of isolation was over. The age of unity had begun.